Uh, let's get into your story. How was it that you became uh, involved in the military? Was it that you were uh, come from a military family, or what was the interest there?
No, not really. I graduated in '69 from Wall Lake Central,
Okay.
and that's back when they were, you had a number.
Oh, yeah.
And mine was 76, and my buddy was, I think he was like 35 or 34.
Okay.
And so we went into the recruiter, and his number came up, obviously, because it was a low number. So I went in, and the recruiter said, well, you'll probably be going in August. And this was March of 1970.
Okay.
So I said, well, I can volunteer to go. So he said, yeah, we'll take you. So I volunteered and went with my buddy in the buddy
There you go.
plan. And we made it through basic training together, and then I never seen him again.
Really? Wow.
So he joined. He was really gung ho, a lot more so than I was. He joined the 82nd Airborne, and he wanted to go to Vietnam, and
Really?
I wasn't crazy about the idea. So I go to Vietnam, and he stayed in North Carolina his whole time.
So how old are you at that time?
19.
19. Okay.
I spent my 19th, my 20th, and 21st birthday in Vietnam.
Wow.
And I was in Phu Bai, which the first night in country, it was you're scared to death anyway. We fly over, and we stopped in Alaska,
Okay.
and they let us off the plane, and the plane was packed, so I'm guessing 250 or so troops, and we had one guy was just sitting up on a railing,
Mm-hmm.
and he fell off and fell down one floor and killed himself, right?
Oh my God.
So we were dealing with that, and they were trying to get us back on the plane. I didn't know the guy, but so we're dealing with that on the way to Vietnam. We get into Cam Ranh Bay, and it's pouring out. It's monsoon season,
Okay.
and we can't find a bunk. And we had they got metal roofs on them over picnic tables.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to find a dry spot, with our ponchos and everything, and then they blew up the ammo dump, and it looked like in Cam Ranh Bay, it looked like it was right on top of it. It was actually probably 20 miles away, but it lit the sky up. It was like it was daylight, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, we're never getting
What a
out of
way
here.
to start.
So then they have a map there. They have a gigantic map, and the feeling back then was the further up north you went, the more in trouble you were,
Okay.
So I'm looking down by South Vietnam, and I'm thinking, where's Phu Bai, and Phu Bai is all the way at the top, right by
wow.
the DMZ. The only post north of that was Quan Tri, which is a 3-man post, and it was on a mountain. So that was we got into base, or we got into Cam Ranh Bay, then we got our papers to go where we were going. So we go up to Phu Bai, and we get into, we get to sleep because we got in kind of late.
Mm-hmm.
And we got incoming that day, so we run out into the bunker, and that was about 3 in the morning.
So it basically starts right when you get there.
Yeah, everything started right when we got there. So then at 7 in the morning, we're sleeping again,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened? One of the rockets came into the middle. You got hooches on this side, and bunkers in between the hooches, and then across, you've got the latrines in the center of the kind of like the road. And then hooches on the other side. There's about 50 yards between the hooches, the rows of hooches. And so they bunkered up this rocket that had not exploded. And so it went off. They designated, or they blew it up, right? So all of us rookies, we go running out again into the bunkers, and everybody out there was laughing at us because we're just new in country and everything. So that was my first day in country. And then every day we were getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
So how long before you were actually in battle?
Actually, I was 63rd Signal, so I was actually on the base 75% of the time.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't go into the 101st was right next to us. We were pretty safe
Okay.
because of the 101st. I mean, they were some really badass people. I mean, they were. I went out with them for I volunteered because I was on base. And I really got tired of being on base and not doing anything. I drove the deuce and a half between Phu-Bai and Da Nang, which you go up, it takes you like 4 hours to get there, even though you go up one mountain, down the mountain, and then down the other side. And I was transporting troops and equipment. And then I volunteered to go out with the 101st. I did that one time. I came back on base and I said, I'll never do that again. Well, those guys, and a lot of drugs, a lot of people doing drugs because, I mean, you're dealing with death and devastation.
Right.
And
things that you've never seen before.
Yeah, and we're all kids. I mean, we're all 19, 20-year-old kids, barely out of high school, and now we're in a war zone. And it happened so quick. I was out of high school in June of '69, and I was in the Army in March of '70, and in Vietnam in August of '70.
Wow.
So just a year later out of high school, I'm in Vietnam. And back then, I had friends that had been killed in Vietnam. So if you got Vietnam, we at that time we thought it was a death sentence. You're just not coming home. And in reality, obviously most of the troops did come home. We unfortunately we lost quite a few of our troops over there. And part of the things that people don't know is you have a lot of drug issues, you have a lot of overdoses, a lot of people died from. There was, to be honest with you, there was racial issues between the whites and blacks, and people were killed by our own hands sometimes. So there was a lot of that as well. Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with all this. And
just with confrontations between the troop.
Yeah. So I come from Wall Lake, and I'd never seen anything like this before. And, I was raised to respect everybody. It doesn't matter what color you are. You just respect everybody, and you're judged by your character. So
you're all on the same team.
Yeah, we're all in the same team. We're fighting for the same cause.
Right.
And before I went, to Vietnam, I got the 30 days leave, and I talked to my mom a lot, and she said, to be honest with you, I didn't want to go. A lot of people were going to Canada. I was scared to death, but it was my duty to go, and it's the best thing I've ever done was as a young kid, you're thinking, why are we doing this, right? A lot of people took the easy way out and went to Canada, and I would never consider that because I didn't want to be, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, basically. So I went, but my mom always told me, women have, we have babies and we have our things that we have to do, and men go fight wars, and that's your duty. So I went, and glad I did. Met some great people over there. I still stay in touch with a couple guys. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I went, and I'm glad I survived it. But the Vietnam Wall, I got some good friends that are, like Dale Brewer runs the DAV here, and he's brought the Vietnam Wall. As the sheriff, I was supposed to speak at the wall when it came into Hamburg. And I was good right up until the time I got to the podium. And then
emotions took over. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, what you experienced over there, something that you'll never forget, but sharing it now and being able to be with your other brothers and sharing their experiences, and you have somebody to bounce things off of. But the reason why we're here today and getting together today is to help. We want these stories told. It's very important. While you guys are still around, while I'm still around.
Well, look at the World War II veterans. I just saw one yesterday, 100th birthday, and World War II vets are our heroes. I mean, if it wasn't for the World War II vets, we'd be speaking Japanese or German or something, Right. And so they're the forgotten, not so much forgotten, but they're our true heroes. I mean, they were at a time when World War II. I mean, we had we had the Korean War, Vietnam, we've had Afghanistan and some of those things, but not a World War. So those guys really stepped up and saved America, as far as I'm concerned. But I wasn't able to speak because I just got too emotional about it. Mm-hmm. And then they brought the wall to the airport, and for the first time I was able to talk about it, right? As a speaker, I got up and talked about it. But even today, it's an emotional thing.
Right. And it's been some time, 50 some years,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter, they say time heals all wounds, but with something like that, the visual, I don't think you ever get out of your mind.
Well, you remember the good things, and back in the back of your mind, all the devastation, the people that were killed, and you wake up, and you have your buddies, and the next day they weren't there; they were killed in action. So you had to get used to that, and that's devastating. In Fubai, we had guard duty. We had, like, around our base, we had probably 18 bunkers, and they were the bunkers to protect the Fubai, our base. There was probably, I'm guessing, maybe 100 yards apart, right?
Okay.
And you couldn't go to sleep there either, because we had, they would sneak in at night and kill troops that were standing guard. And we had, and I never got this, but half the bunkers we had South Vietnamese in front of us, so you were pretty safe from the standpoint of, if you were going to get attacked, you knew what was coming. But on the other side, we didn't have that, and quite often we got attacked from that side. So when you first get in country, those are the bunkers you get.
Okay.
Because it goes by seniority. The guys that have been there the longest and are short, they want, they're within a couple months or 30 days or a week of going home. They certainly don't want to be on that side. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, but even today we had 1 day a month you had to have you were assigned to duty of taking care of the bodies that were killed in action. Body bags, and you put them in the connexes, and then they were shipped down to, I think, Cameron Bay or one of the bases down south to be shipped home. That's things that we think about. I think about,
Right.
and very rarely talk about it though.
Right. It's difficult. What is the one thing that you'd like to share today with your fellow veterans?
Well, as sheriff, my two priorities was law enforcement and veterans. I serve on the Veterans Affairs Board in Livingston County, and I'm on the committee in Lansing.
Okay.
That's our chair is Bo LaFave, and that's when I was interviewed by the speaker. Okay, what committees would you like to be assigned to? Those are the two that I wanted. The veterans, especially, because we're seeing 22 veterans each day commit suicide, and that's a number that, if you think about it, I mean, that's
just too much.
What are we doing about it, though?
Right.
And
well, what are we doing about it?
That's the sad part. Is I went up there hoping to okay, let's identify some of these issues and put some legislation in place that's going to help these vets. And if you're not the chair of that committee, which I'm not, if you're not the co-chair, which I'm not, I'm just on the committee, I don't drive the agenda. Bo LaFave drives the agenda. So I'm a freshman. I'm in my first term.
So you're able to suggest and
right, and work.
Put your 2 cents in.
We've done some good things. I mean, and even on the local Veterans Affairs, the good citizens of Livingston County gave us a millage, and we're going to ask for that millage again probably this year, because the 5 years are up now. But we get about $1.1 million a year to help Livingston County veterans.
Great.
We help put in new roofs. We help, air conditionings. We buy cars for vets so they can get to work. But it's a temporary thing. If it's anything long term, health wise especially, or we have to send them to Ann Arbor. But it's
so. What about the homeless vets? What's going on with that? Is there any progress in helping those that are not connected, media wise, and not connected at all?
One of the issues we help homeless vets here. We put them up at the hotel there at the Tanger Outlet Mall.
Okay.
And
great.
We have a few facilities around here that we'll take care of vets for 60 to 90 days, try to get them a job. But
what about medical?
Medical's the same way.
Okay, so you're able to help them in those kind of situations, because I'm sure other than having a place to stay, a roof over your head, medically is so important because of what you guys went through. And if you're homeless, I'm sure you have that, on top of the other things that are going on.
We have about 12,000 vets in Livingston County, and we're trying to advertise. If a veteran needs help, come and see us.
Okay.
So
is there a number or?
Yes.
Okay.
The local Veterans Affairs, Mary Durst is our director, and we have a 5-member panel.
Do you know that number offhand?
I don't.
Okay.
I can obviously
Do
get
you have
that.
it in your phone or?
We have a billboard right there by the Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
We just opened up a new facility right here at Lake Chemung next to the Secretary of State's office, and that was paid through funding from the state and federal government. So it didn't cost taxpayers, local taxpayers. We didn't pay for that out of our $1.1 million.
Okay. We'll give you a minute to be able to look at that and find that number. Meanwhile, we'll go to commercial break. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Shea, and this is Body by Mark. Here we do a complete line of repairs, collision repairs, anything at all that happens in an accident, we can fix it. We also do restoration repairs, and there's not a lot of shops around here that do it. We're working on a 2009 Jeep Wrangler. It's a TJ, and we are replacing a frame rail, which is very common on these. If you need an estimate, I'll even come to your house and do it for you.
And if any veteran needs help, all they have to do is call the 517 area code 546-6338.
Okay.
546-6338.
Okay.
And then we identify your needs, whether they're whether it's housing, whether it's medical, including psychological help, because a lot of the guys need that.
Right.
I belong to the Vietnam, the VFW in Fowlerville, 6464. I'm involved with the American Legion at 59 in Grand River. We do. Bobby Bright is the commander there, and Roger Deaton is the adjutant, and they do some great work getting veterans involved and getting them in and feeling that they're involved and they're
taking care of their needs.
They're needed, right?
Right.
And then if they identify, the good thing about that is if they identify any issues with veterans, they refer them down to us, or they refer them to Ann Arbor or Flint.
Okay.
Veterans, I don't care what, even the young veterans are very, very proud people, and it's an honorable thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And we wear it close to our heart. Any veteran you talk to, if you talk to them long enough, you'll see the emotional part of it.
Right.
So when something traumatic happens in your life that brings that out, where it identifies where you need help,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we try to do locally here. We try to get veterans to come in, and even not only veterans but surviving spouses can also apply for the service.
Caregivers.
Yeah. So it doesn't just go to the veteran; it goes to the families of the veterans as well.
Okay.
So we just last month we put a brand new roof on a surviving spouse's house.
Great.
It couldn't afford the $10,000, so we paid for that out of our fund, and we're glad to do that. We have a five-member panel board board of directors, Bruce Hunley, and they're all they're all veterans.
Right.
So to serve on this board, you have to be a veteran. Bruce Hunley is a Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
Jim, oh my God, I was going to say Jim Thomas, but it's not Jim Thomas. Jim served. I'm not sure if it was Korean or Vietnam. We have Kevin Nagel who served, and then we have Joe Riker who served in the Marines. I think his was Afghanistan and Iraq, but he's a younger veteran, obviously. But Joe served in the Marines and the Army, I believe. And then our final member, Joe Riker, Kevin, Jim, and Bruce, and then me. So we have a 5-member panel board. But all of them, veterans, they understand the needs of veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come in, we just want to make sure that we're using taxpayers' money efficiently,
right,
and we're using it for the right reason. So we got to be accountable to make sure we're spending that money properly. And we have open meetings. People can come in and see what we're doing, or they can zoom in and see what we're doing.
Locally here?
Yeah.
Okay, and when are those?
They're every third Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Month.
Okay.
And then quite often we have an emergency meeting where a vet will come in and they need, like, they're going to be evicted, and we need to pay their rent, or we need to pay their utilities. So especially in the winter, utilities can't be shut off.
Right.
So
you need them.
We'll pay that for the veterans.
Okay.
As well.
And where is that meeting at?
It's at we have it at the veterans.
In Brayton.
No, it's right here in Lake Chemung.
Okay.
Next to the Secretary of State. It's
okay.
Less than a mile and a half from here.
So off of Grand River.
Off Grand River.
Okay.
It's a brand new facility. We just opened it up, and veterans can go in there and just relax, or watch TV, or just hang out.
Okay.
So we're trying
to
get
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to get information to get out.
The part that I'm trying to do, I want to be able to. I retired at the end of 2016 from being sheriff, and I was county commissioner for 4 years. And then I see the veterans that are committing suicide, 22 a day. So we have a thing at the American Legion every October, every day for that 31 days, we post 22 crosses out front. Every day we meet at about 8 in the morning, and it's a sight to see when people say, well, what's that represent? And it causes people to talk and ask questions about,
right,
what's that represent,
Now, is it elevate? Is it, elevate from where it was, years ago, or is it just getting to the point where it's just, 22 a day,
I know.
That is just kind of telling me that we're not hitting the point where we need to hit,
right,
and get these people help.
We're doing more than we ever have in the past. I will say that,
yeah,
but it's not enough. And I will say that too, because being involved in the local veterans affairs and trying to get our veterans to come in,
mm-hmm,
it's hard for a veteran to come in and say, I'm having some mental issues here and I need some help.
Or he may not even know.
Right. And what's going to trigger that? Just the emotional of being in a war zone. And the PTSD is a real issue. And people hide that. Veterans hide that. They don't want to admit that they've got, we're strong men. We don't want to admit we've got issues, right? But it's not. We gotta somehow.
So depression being the main source,
right? So somehow we got to reach these people and say, we all, at some point in our life, all of us need help.
Right, exactly.
It's just not you. So
are the facilities here for the veterans to be able to get that help in Livingston County?
It's a lot better in Livingston County than most counties.
Okay, so where is the real problem? Where is in the state? Where location-wise?
Statewide, we have an issue with on Veterans Day. Everybody will say, let's honor our veterans.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, actions speak louder than words. What are we doing behind the scenes? And I went to Tom Elbert, who's our chair of appropriations, when we had all this money. We stuck $250 million into veterans' mental health.
Okay.
So that money is directly going to the state state facilities, not county. But we also gave $50,000 to each county to help with mental illness. And
So with that money is directly helping veterans
Yes.
that are suffering with depression
Yes.
and other illnesses. Okay.
so that 50,000 goes to 83 counties, and you're held accountable. You got to say how you spend it. So you got to document it. It's got to be accountable.
Okay.
But it's 50,000 for 83 counties, and then the 2.5 million goes to like Ann Arbor, so they can continue to help veterans with mental issues. And
How long do you
depression.
see that money lasting with the use that it's being put to today?
250 million won't take you too far into the future. So it's a constant issue. Like Livingston County, our millage is just ending at the end of this year, so it'll be on the ballot in November to renew that millage. Right now, we have $2.5 million in our account. We spend about $1.1 million, so we have a surplus that if the millage doesn't pass, at least we can continue to help vets for 2 years.
Is there any way to take that money and be able to invest any of it so you have something, down the road?
Well,
Is there a possibility?
no. You have state and federal guidelines.
Okay.
You have to spend that money a certain way, and you can't invest it. What are you going to invest in, right?
Right. Yeah. Nowadays,
If you lose money, then you've lost taxpayers' money.
It's too bad that you can't set aside something and watch it grow and be there for the future.
The immediate issue for me is the 22 suicides a day. What are we doing to stop that? What are we doing to at least, like you said earlier, why is it down to 15 or 12? But we still see it, and I truly believe it's more than 22. We're losing so many Vietnam veterans right now, and I'm proud of Livingston County. I'm really proud of what we're trying to do here. It's a slow process, but the citizens of Livingston County has given us, they've given us that millage to try to help veterans. So,
what's the age of most of the deaths? Are they the older veterans?
the older veterans. Yeah.
Okay, so the young ones are obviously not only able to cope, but they're getting the help. The older ones don't want to go to get the help. Is that
Well, the PTSD people, a lot of the veterans are in denial.
okay?
They don't think they have a problem.
So how do we get to them? How are we able to be able to help them other than just giving money? How do we get to them?
Well, if you call our Veterans Affairs and we identify an issue, we have the resources to try to help you with depression, or it's not always about putting a new roof on or paying your bills. It's about the mental health part of it is what we're trying to concentrate on.
Okay, so if I'm sitting here right now, well, I am sitting here right now. If I was in the position of knowing somebody right now that was needing help, I would call who?
We call this 546-6338. That would start the process.
Okay.
And then we come in, you go in for an interview, and then you need immediate help? Is it something that we're going to work on for the next 3 to 6 months together? And then after that, do we refer you to Ann Arbor for
Evaluation.
for
Okay,
long-term
so
health?
you really need to know. This is probably the most important message right now is being in a position of knowing someone.
Yes.
And people that are watching this, feel free to get a hold of this number and preventing these numbers from getting worse.
And that's where we're going to make most of the impact, I think, is because families identify, my dad's not doing well, or my brother's
Well,
not
they're the
doing
ones
well.
that see them every day.
Yeah. And the veteran is so proud sometimes that I'm okay. There's other vets that need it. I don't need it. And if we can get those vets in, if we can get by that barrier, I think that's one of the biggest barriers. You see it by the bill we just passed. I mean, everybody wants to help the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we get bogged down with other issues, and the veterans unfortunately take a back seat.
Well, this should be we should prioritize these things and not only share these stories, but be able to give the information so people that are watching and say, hey, and we will put that number up, and I'll, maybe just have it up, in the corner all through this interview, because we want to be productive,
Right.
and we don't want to just talk and have this conversation. We want to move on this
And
as quickly as possible.
We take care of transportation needs as well. If a veteran doesn't have a car or needs transportation, we utilize LETS, which is a county resource. We're constantly taking. If you go down to the veterans, we have a couple vans, wheelchair accessible, and we'll pick them up and take them to their appointments.
What about somebody who doesn't want to go and the family has an issue with being able to move them to get them there? Because I can see that being, as a caregiver myself, I can see that as probably a big problem. How do you approach that problem?
That's a difficult problem. Even in law enforcement, we would have families that identified mental illness. They would go into the courts and sign a petition, a 72-hour hold on. We transport them to Ypsilanti or a mental institution for evaluation. Now, the family has got to get involved and go into the courts and sign a petition. But if they don't do that, the law enforcement can't get involved. Who's going to force them to do it?
Right. We don't want to force them.
No.
We want them in a situation where they're comfortable.
It's got to be a voluntary situation.
Right. So how would you approach that if you were in that position of being a family member and knowing your father needs help, but he's refusing help? Other than going to the court, how would you approach it?
I would bring them down to the Veterans Affairs office.
Okay.
They don't even have to talk to anybody. They can just. It's
all confidential.
It's all confidential. And even if you do talk, we're bound, but we can't talk about. We black out the names. We don't use the names. Matter of fact, we just passed a law that if a veteran comes in and it's an Open Meetings Act. So if they say, well, I don't want this, and that deters a lot of veterans from coming in because they don't want to let other people know I've got these issues. Right. Well, we just passed a bill this past year that says that's private. It doesn't apply to the Open Meetings Act.
What's that bill called?
It's the Open Meetings Act bill. Veterans Act bill. And I wish I had the number for you, but I don't.
Okay, well, we can get that later.
Okay.
And put it on there. But that's a comfort. Just by you sharing that information, that's more comfortable for me than having to take your dad or having to go to court and do that process, because mentally, somebody who is unstable is going to, that's going to be a pile on for them.
Yeah.
Well, you have to go or you're forced. Let's create a system, as you have, sounds like, of being able to have that comfort and saying, hey, Dad, let's go have lunch.
Yeah.
And then you end up at the VFW hall.
Let's go see how the veterans are doing.
Let's go see how the veterans are doing and make it comfortable for your parent. If you're out there and you're seeing, you're watching this video, you want to be respectful, you want it comforting, and if you could get them there and still be truthful, I'm not saying take them to lunch and then surprise them with, all this.
Well, if a veteran, you think about this, if a veteran, you take your father or your brother and you say, let's go down and we need to get you some help, for whatever reason, whether it be monetary, depression or whatever it is. But, you have to sit before the board to get approved, and it's an Open Meetings Act, so WHMI's on the Zoom. So why would you go in and talk about your personal business and tell people at your weakest moment that I need help?
Right.
I'm after all these years, I don't have a dime in the bank. Why would you do that? So that's why we passed the one law that says that it's a private. We shut all the cameras off. We block out the name, and it's private between us, and we're bound by. We can't talk about. We talk about we've helped this veteran, but we don't give names out.
Okay.
Because we want the people to know the good work that's being done in Livingston County.
Right.
And I really believe Livingston County is ahead of the pack as far as veterans offices around. The more I talk to the state reps, there's very little help in a lot of counties. especially rural counties when you go up north. Oakland County does a good job. Shiawashi's got a good board. But
Well, say if you're up north, say you're living in Dallas,
yeah.
and there's a situation where you need this help. Can a veteran come down to Livingston County? No.
The law is very specific that we can only help veterans that live in Livingston County. That's
tough.
Yeah, because and on the other side of it, what we have to be careful of, the fact is that we've had many cases where vets will go to Ann Arbor and they go to Oakland County and they'll come here and they'll duplicate their services intentionally, fraud and theft.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very cautious about that. So when we interview people, and that's why the law specifically says you have to have residency in the specific county that you're getting help from. So
and easier to follow.
Yeah.
Keeping it in
so you're not worried about, taxpayers' money. We're obligated to protect it, and we want to help our veterans, but we got to make sure that we're doing it fiscally responsibly. We can't just throw money at a problem and hope that it goes away, because that many times, as you know, it doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
Long term, are we going to get
exactly?
Are we going to get this veteran mental help or psychological help where it's going to help him
continuously?
Yeah,
and that was going to be my next question.
Well, and then we help them get a job.
Okay.
We have resources throughout the county that we can get people jobs, get them to their jobs, whether it be a transportation issue. There's so many good services that are provided here, but we got to get the vets in the door.
Right.
That's the biggest issue. And you asked that question, and I see that as the biggest issue: getting our veterans to come in. And,
so we need the families.
Yeah.
Really, we need the families of veterans to be able to give that support where needed, whether it's your dad, your uncle, or somebody that you know. Let's all work together and make this happen.